Hello and welcome to Tribe Dialogues. Today we are going to discuss about South Asia, the Chinese interference into South Asia or Chinese bid to attract most of the South Asian nations in its fold. To discuss this, we have with us Dr. Pooja Bhatt. She is a JNU PhD holder, an independent scholar, and she's also written a book on deciphering the South China Sea conundrum. She just got it launched by the CNS. So those who have not purchased it, please go to the Amazon or wherever it is located, buy it. Welcome, Pooja, to the show.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, so everyone. Thank you so much for having me on the show on the Sunday evening. I'm very happy to talk about anything China, defense policies, South China Sea, and looking forward to the discussion.
ओके पूजा, जैसा कि आपको पता है, टुडे वी विल डिस्कस अबाउट द चाइनीज इंटरेस्ट इन द साउथ एशियन नेशंस, हाउ इट वांट्स टू put them under its own influence so that India is weaned away from it. They say that there are two competitions today happening in the world, one
Hmm.
at the global stage between US and China, and the second one, which is of importance, is at the regional level between China and India. It's kind of mirror image both these competitions, and therefore China, being the stronger economy, is trying to use its economic weapon to wean away the nations of South Asia. Although, mind you, the primary nation as far as South Asia is concerned is India, but so therefore it directly affects India. I will briefly tell you why we have selected this topic at this point in time. Recently, we had this is South Asia, as you all can see. It's got Afghanistan, it's got Nepal, it's got Bhutan, it's got Myanmar, Bangladesh. Although Myanmar technically comes under the ASEAN, but for the purpose of this discussion, I think it will be better that we include Myanmar also because it kind of has a dual influence. India as well as the ASEAN countries have an influence over Myanmar. And the bigger reason is that it is also directly linked to China, and China India are having I would say some kind of a cold war going on between them. Then you have Sri Lanka, Maldives, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. So these are the countries of South Asia. We will discuss each one of them. So what happened recently was that there was China had put its economy on kind of a freeze, zero COVID policy, so no major developments took place. Thereafter, there has been a runaway of various manufacturing giants out of China. Its reality sector collapsed. So a number of issues which happened because of which Chinese economy was not going anywhere. The BRI, most of the projects were going for a six. Most of the countries were going out of, no, were not paying, in fact, or not even seeking to actually invite China to get their projects done. So China is in a problem economically. Maybe South Asia Expo was an effort to win over more investments, win over the countries of South Asia into its fold. So what happened? The last one was conducted in 2019, and thereafter it was online, some kind of uh, activities to take place. So this was the first one after that. It did manage to get some kind of a traction. There was some growth in it, but countries are still little skeptical about कि China में होगा क्या. I mean, if they invest in China, what is going to be the outcome? So I would say, new buyers were little uncomfortable in the face of geopolitical disputes which are taking place. If you talk in terms of specific, 342 pacts, 141 trade contracts were signed, up by 2.2 and 3.9%. Looks good from a perspective of increase in the contracts and the trades and contracts. But mind you, it is after 4 years. So if you if you add it up annually, I think it's hardly anything. So if you add the growth annually, it would not be much. But what is of significance is that only 52 Indian companies were there, which was 140 in 2019. So look at the deterioration in relationships which are which have taken place between India and China. And that is the point of discussion which we're going to have today. Wang Yi, after Kim Gang got purged, Wang Yi is the foreign minister. Although it's a downsizing of his status because he was in the Politburo. He has advised Subrahmanyam Jaishankar, our foreign minister, to ease restrictions on Chinese companies and focus on common interests. It is an old song. पुराना पुराना बीन बजा रहे हैं कि भाई बॉर्डर को भूल जाओ और इसको करते रहो. ऐसे कैसे होगा? We have to take care of our borders. Without that, without security, we really can't grow economically. So I mean, it's a egg and chicken story. The total trade between China and South Asia is about 200 billion. That's very huge. That's very huge. Although bulk of the share is with India. Let me also clarify. It was 135 billion dollars as far as India's trade with China was concerned. So trade wise, I think there has not been much of a change in terms of volumes and values. Largest trading partner of China have been Pakistan. Pakistan, we are not surprised. They have no choice only. उनके पास और कोई choice ही नहीं है कि चाइना के अलावा कहीं और जाएं. Bangladesh and Maldives is something which we have to be concerned about because they are the countries which are now well in our fold. So we need to focus there. So what else they have done, Pooja? I think just for yourself, Afghanistan, they have got the mining rights. They've offered 10 billion to Afghanistan government. They've also got lithium mining rights. Although it's going to be a long-term development, but they are focused there in Afghanistan. They're also looking at extending the BRI from Pakistan to Afghanistan, which is again a development which needs to be considered. Bangladesh, they have offered 27 BRI agreements worth $24 billion. This is the biggest foreign line credit for Bangladesh, bigger than India. But and India is also facing the challenge of NRC and CA. That is a very for Bangladesh, it's a little sore issue. Then Maldives also they have had a free trade agreement with China, and they've also made the Maldives Friendship Bridge. Although the current government is now favorable to India. Then you have the Sri Lankan president was the chief guest for the fair. So they are probably trying to win back the new regime which is there in Sri Lanka. That's again a and they also offered 2.9 billion through IMF to Sri Lanka, which is big amount. Hambantota is on a 99-year lease. There is a rumor that they are going to build a radar facility at Bundra Bay, which is the southern tip of Sri Lanka. Now, this is something again very, very serious development as far as India's security is concerned. Pakistan, I'm not going to talk much about. Iron brother, higher than the Himalaya, deeper than the ocean. So, uska to it is kind of a vassal of China. China ties to Pakistan, engagement with Taliban are growing, robust economic presence in BD, Maldives, Nepal, and Sri Lanka. China can leverage military regimes in Myanmar, Beijing. Interest in developing the port of Kyakfu at Myanmar is also going to be a serious issue as far as India is concerned. So, do you think China is becoming aggressive both economically and geopolitically? Your views, the floor is yours, Pooja.
Thank you, sir, for that wonderful introduction about the entire context of why China had this expo currently after 2019, and now we have it. To add to the context, we also need to see the current geopolitical scenario, geoeconomic scenario that China is facing at the moment. As you rightly mentioned, the zero COVID policy actually crushed Chinese economy when they had to cut down their economic cycles with all other countries, even domestically. At the moment, because of continuous economic policies that were now started to show downturn in economy, we have debt crisis, we have deflation, we have aging economic and demographic factors. So all of this is now burdening Chinese economy ever more than before. And remember this, in 2008, just 2 decades back, it was China when we had the 2008 crisis. It was China which came for the help of Southeast Asia and South Asian and rest of the world to rescue economically. So it has been quite a fall for China, which is imagining itself to be the next global power in the coming years. In 20 years, it just saw a downfall, both because of the domestic as well as international issues. Adding to that is the issue of the BRI, which has been started to receive a lot of negative flack. Um, as if the audience of this platform would be very well aware that there has been very unequal debt practices that China was perceiving. A lot of countries found out. Also, in the recent times, we have come across that the kind of infrastructure that China is doing is not up to the quality. So, quality of infrastructure again is even though they were going faster at a faster rate, and any of the project was getting completed within 6 months to 2 years of time frame, and they were very fast with that. But if you look at them closely, a lot of those projects are crumbling basically because of their poor quality. So China overall is facing a lot of backlash internationally, and for it to develop into a economic to global power, so it has two major factors, and first largely is to become the economic power. Any country, US is a global power because it's primarily economic powerhouse of the globe, and only after economic part you can look after the military and grow militarily as well. So to seek all this, China has to focus on its economic growth, and the entire idea was of BRI when it's initiated in 2014-15. The idea was came up was to have a central hub and spoke model where China will provide as a production house for the world in Xi'an and other places, provinces that were there, and they wanted to link these production houses to the globe, to the rest of the world, both through land and through seas. So, Belt and Road Initiative. Despite the fact that we need to remember that they calculated at that time also that the kind of exports they are doing, they might not get the same kind of imports back, and there will be always a trade imbalance in their favor. But despite that fact, they were pushing their PRI, and then COVID happened, and the BRI started getting backlash. So all these factors come as a crucial context to why China is again reaching out to South Asia. Basically, East Asia is more or less very much connected because it has very strong trade routes, and it's basically in its very close geographical proximity. South Asia on the other hand faces one problem, that is India, because India also is trying to mend or better its relationship over the years, politically, economically, militarily, and as well as it's also countering China over the years. So for that reason, it is very important for China to come back to Asia region again, because it has lost, as you rightly mentioned, Sri Lanka it had lost Myanmar for some time, it had lost Bangladesh for some time, and now with all these recent events, just to mention that how China has been approaching each country one by one at the bilateral level, including Nepal, where he has sent a BRI ambassador in early in Jan this year. So these are all attempts at revamping those, relationship which went wrong over the years. So this would be the entire context why China wanted this South Asia Expo to be a success and wanted more and more Indians and South Asians to participate.
Okay, Pooja, I'll ask you questions related to each country one by one, and I would request you to give your views whether it is going to succeed in winning over that country or not. Uh, we'll start off with Afghanistan.
All right.
That was the country which came the last, and वो एक मेजर वॉर के बाद इस पूरे साउथ एशियन फ्रेम में अंदर आया है, और
Hmm.
वहां पे जो है यूएस ने एक वैक्यूम छोड़ा, और
Correct.
ग्लोबल स्टेज पे यू नो दैट देयर आर दीज आर द टू मेजर इकोनॉमिक प्लेयर्स, एट लीस्ट if not military players, economic players. These are the two major countries. So once America left, it was understood that probably China will come and fill up the vacuum. It has tried to do it, but do you think it will succeed, given the fact Taliban is Taliban. You know, it's a government made of terrorists now ruling the country. What are your views on this? Quick 1 or 2 minutes on this, and then we'll
Yes.
go country to country.
Yes. So I think for both the countries, it's an opportune time. Taliban, on the one hand, they are looking to get themselves recognized politically in most of the countries. More major powers do it, better for them. So after US and the EU and other countries do not recognize it the way they want it to be, the China factor is giving them enough factor. Another thing is the kind of money that they want, to sustain the political process, economy, and whatever. So I think given the lithium contract and all these things, actually is going to help both the countries, in coming together. So I think what US was trying to build that democratic changeover, I think China would not try to do any kind of political changeover, and that suits both the countries. And I think their relation this way, having a transactional relationship would work for them both.
Uh, I want to put an angle here before we move on to the next country. Pakistan and Afghanistan are not having a very good relationship of late because of
Hmm.
the splinter group of Taliban, Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, uh, going against Pakistan in many ways. They've also built up a kind of an alliance with the Baluch Liberation Army, and Pakistan is having a tough time on its western borders. Do you think this is going to spoil the party of China Afghanistan economic handshake at least?
I doubt so. It would be very. It is a difficult game for China to keep both the parties happy at the same time, getting the projects all along. But China will go to the last resort to ensure that the Pakistan Afghanistan relationship does not affect the bilateral relation that China has with each of the countries, also the kind of projects that China has with Pakistan. I think it will try its best that it should not
So,
impact.
so possibly China will use the leverage which Pakistan it has with Pakistan and tell it to keep quiet or whatever it is. I think that is what
Absolutely.
you're referring to. Okay, we'll move on to the next country, and we will not discuss Pakistan because I take it for granted that Pakistan will remain with China. It has no other options. We'll move on to next country, which is Nepal. We're starting from the north, so we'll okay. Nepal also it is building a railway line. It has offered a number of BRI projects. It's offering also study programs, etc. So, do you think Nepal is slowly getting sucked into the Chinese influence, and India is probably at a disadvantage here?
Hmm. That's a good question. Actually, Nepal is a country that is again sandwiched between both the countries. Geographically, Nepal has more access to India because of Tarai borders and all that, and Himalayas are more difficult for Nepal to get connected to China. Still, China could manage its inroads politically, diplomatically, economically with Nepal. And also, Nepal is a country which is seeing a lot of demographic transition in terms of they were majorly an agri economy, and now they are trying to look forward to more businesses and industry. People are getting more educated. So what China is doing, whatever India has left the loopholes there, not getting Nepalese students for education, providing them job opportunities, providing businessmen opportunities. I think everything China is using to its leverage to get Nepal on its side. And in the end, any country is run by the business community, whether it's India, China, Nepal. And if the business community is moving towards China, we can very well see a lot of, even if there is a resentment towards Chinese ways in Nepal, there is no other option but to move towards Nepal.
But I think India still enjoys a little bit of leverage. I'll tell you why. There are two, three reasons for it. One is that could fine China is intruding or extending its tentacles into Nepal by virtue of the BRI projects and the other economic measures that they are taking. Even in the expo, they had a large Nepalese delegation, about 100 odd business houses were there from Nepal. But getting goods into Nepal via China or getting goods to Nepal via India, it's cheaper for them to get these goods via India because of the port connectivity which India offers, right? So they, even if the Chinese send it to Chittagong, where Bangladesh has some arrangements with China, even then those goods have to cross through India. So therefore, I think that leverage is there, and they also say, I mean, this is my view, that India and Nepal, despite all the differences, despite the fact that there is a government which is slightly differently oriented from what it was earlier, basically communist, but different faction has come into power. The cultural ties are very, very strong, and I think these two factors make India Nepal relation a special one. There may be differences, so maybe we could see a similar kind of a status quo going on. Nepal trying to milk both, you know, as well as China. So we would be looking for a transactional relation. So we must, I think, build on this factor and continue to support Nepal. That would be in better interest. Coming on to the next country, which is Bangladesh. Now, Bangladesh has been very, very quickly going into the Chinese. It's the largest trading partner. The BRI projects are going on fine. They have built a bridge over Padma River, which has cut down the distance from Chittagong to Dhaka, I mean, by quite a considerable time. Do you think a change of government can just swing the balance as far as Bangladesh is concerned? Because Bangladesh will also be going for elections. So, do you think this, if there is a change in government, this whole equation of India Bangladesh ties on a high may get into a spin?
Yes, this is quite interesting. Despite Sheikh Hasina being so, friendly with the Indian government and the entire, if you follow the entire conversation, it sounds so India positive conversation. But there is also an element which is emerging at the same time, that Bangladesh is trying to establish itself as a regional power as well. In terms of it, it is saying that, if you follow the statements coming out that Bangladesh wants to have its independent foreign policy, not influenced by anyone, we will make our own choices based on our national interests. So these kind of statements also tell you that they've also become very transactional. They understand that uh, economy is very important, and whichever country provides them more economic benefits is beneficial to them. And also there is some kind of resentment within the Bangladeshi crowd, young crowd, in terms from India, because of late, when we cut off our rice trade with them, when we had the shortage, we also recently so basically two or three incidents happened in a line. And if I when I followed the Bangladeshi media, the youngsters basically were very anti-India somehow, despite
Okay.
the bad history. You see
Mhm.
a lot of young Bangladeshi scholars being very anti-India, and which is very surprising, despite whatever Indian government is trying to do. And they're, on the other hand, very pro of the Chinese, as well as even a bit of US government. So I think these are the culmination of factors that we'll be losing out in terms of
Maybe,
Bangladesh in the region.
NRC and the CA have something to do with it, of little soaring of relations between the two countries. But I think till the time this government is of Awami League, we can see slightly favored situation towards India. But should the other Begum come into the scene, then I think it will be a matter of concern for India, and we'll have to do something
Yeah,
very,
that would be
very.
politically very vocal about Chinese position then.
Yeah, so we now come on to Myanmar. We'll come to the end because Myanmar, like I said, it's on the boundary, it's on the junction of ASEAN and India, ASEAN and South Asia. So we'll discuss that later. So coming on to Sri Lanka. But Sri Lanka has had a tough time with the Chinese, right? Yet the Sri Lankan president goes as the chief guest to China in the South Asian Kunming Fair. Seems to be getting, I mean, tilting towards China. Do you think he will again fall prey to a similar thing what happened in the past? What is your views on Chinese ingress into the Sri Lankan economy again? Because mind you, it's not only Hambantota. I mentioned to you about Dundra Bay. Then even on the Colombo port, they still have one of the ports as their obligation to construct it. I think Western
Hmm.
jetty. So
Hmm.
all these two three things, and even the SEZ, the Chinese have a big stakes in that also. It's almost a Chinese city. So
Hmm.
is Sri Lanka again going to fall prey to the Chinese manipulations? Your views?
That is unlikely a chance now because they have tasted the worst with the Hamantota and the kind of internal resentment that the government received. However, as we also discussed just now, that these governments, at least in South Asia and Southeast Asia, they're trying to play both the sides. They understand that they don't want to pick up global leadership fights or regional fights for their own disadvantage. They are looking at countries which can be economically favorable for them. And also we realize that Sri Lanka is nose deep into debts. It's reaching out to IMF, it's reaching out to any XYZ, country, Saudi and everyone who can help them out economically right now. So, and doubtless to say that Sri Lanka also has strong economic ties with China. So I think going to Kunming is trying to revive some of the profitable business deals and maybe try to negotiate them more smartly now, not going into 99-year kind of deals that they did previously. I do not see any change in Sri Lanka or Maldives or any of these countries' strategies economically towards China. However, they would be more smart now. That's what I guess, at least.
So it will be a discretionary approach to China is what you are referring to, कि वो थोड़ा सोच समझ के आगे बढ़ेंगे, इशू बाय
Absolutely.
इशू बेस पे they will give support, और
Very
जहाँ
transactional. Very
जहाँ सब,
transactional.
या तो कहीं ना कहीं ये रास्ता इंडिया ने ही दिखाया है शायद इन सबको.
So yes, I think they will also look at India as a good example. That India made it a point that our we will not get into US China rivalry, and we will also choose our partners based on our national interests. So this is a very good example for rest of the region to follow. Also, that where India can do it and play against the rivalry, not picking up size, they can also do it at the regional level. We did it at global level. They're doing it regional level. Also, that we also lost out at certain fronts when it came to regional this thing. We're trying to regain, but our approach is still not to the level economically that China can provide.
Okay, so now we'll come to the last truly the South Asian country, which is Maldives. Okay, Maldives had the government of Amin, which was absolutely sold out to China. I mean, it would openly say. In fact, it ran the election campaign by saying India out. That was the campaign which they did. But unfortunately, Soli won, and Soli is playing a different card. So Soli is now playing India India in with engagements with China at convenience of the Maldives. तो कहने का मतलब है इंडिया को प्राइमेसी मिल गई है, चाइना को थोड़ा सा एंगेजमेंट भी कर रहा है, तो वो कहीं बैलेंस करके Soli is going balanced as far as relations are concerned. But again, like I said, like Bangladesh, Maldives is also election driven relationship as far as India is concerned. So, your views, will the next round, when it happens, change back again to China? Or I think they have also learned the lesson like Sri Lanka and they'll continue to behave. Because I'll tell you a factor here. The Chinese in Amin's time made a connected the three islands,
Hmm.
Greater Maldives, right? India now, in its own turn, has connected another three islands. So there is a match going there in Maldives. And again, to me, it appears that what you said, that they are trying to play India, China against each other and trying to win as much as possible. So, your views, will this change drastically like Amin's time, or it will be a different Maldives in the next round whenever there is a change in government?
First, I'll go by the regional kind of overview that I have seen over the years. That China always play by the political parties, unlike US, India, which also try to win the hearts of the people by their kind of projects. China always hit the businessmen and political community of the countries because they are the easiest and also they make bring the largest of the changes. So and fortunately, unfortunately, most of Indian neighbors are also democratic, where election cycles are every few years. So that is a very difficult game for India to every 5 years or every 4 years, this depending on, to keep playing this game. And India and China gets logged into these election cycles very often now. That once India is supporting kind of government, and China will be supporting the other government on the next. So now this time when we have very India positive government, there are very strong chances that China will put a lot of yeah, currency into bringing the next anti-India movement. Um, Recently, Maldives also got one of their projects initiated by China, which was stalled over the years. That project, I think, that was a waterway project or something, some water related project that also went through in the recent time. So you're correct to say that Maldives have gotten stronger, that they want to involve China, India, keep them politically happy, as well as keep engaging with China. At the same time, I will see during the next election that there would be strong, very strong Chinese, pushback for the next government, for
Although
this government and for the next for the government.
I recently read one of the articles by Derek Grossman, which says that
Hmm.
India is fighting a pushback against the Chinese influence in South Asia, and he's quoted
Hmm.
number of steps which India has taken. इंडिया ने कई steps ऐसे लिए हैं जिसकी वजह से चाइना थोड़ा pushback में हो रहा है, थोड़ा सा चाइना को pressure आ रहा है, और यही एक reason है why Xi Jinping is also not very happy, and we didn't find any positive outcome of the border issue as far as the BRICS summit meeting was concerned between
Hmm.
India and Indian Prime Minister and China's president. That's a different discussion. We'll not go. What we are gathering now is that as far as the Indian neighbors are concerned, they have become more and more transactional, except for Pakistan, which is lock, stock, barrel into
Completely
the
dependent.
yeah. The last one which I actually missed was Bhutan.
Hmm.
Bhutan did a very surprising thing. What Bhutan did was, when the border dispute was going on with Chinese, they agreed to unilaterally discuss border bilaterally. See, earlier the arrangement used to be that any border discussion between Bhutan and China, India would be the third party as part of that discussion. Now, that third party role of India has been removed.
Involved.
Yeah. So, do you think Bhutan is a
Correct.
low hanging fruit for China, given the fact that it is also a landlocked country, fully dependent on India? उसका क्या होगा? Bhutan का क्या होगा? What do you feel as far as Bhutan is concerned? Last one before we go to Myanmar.
I think that, yeah, yeah. So that is very interesting for Bhutan, that it wanted to unilaterally engage only China. Also, it all shows that, one, that they want to take their border resolution issues all by themselves. So they want to negotiate their own borders, not involving third party, which is respected. Any country would want to use their sovereignty in their favor, not involving a third party. But also it shows that India might be on the losing grounds with Bhutan on certain when it comes to at least sovereignty and political relation and all this, despite sharing all the soft power and culture and everything, and access to Bhutan, we might be on the losing end when it comes to Bhutan. When it
Okay.
comes to these negotiations, basically, so we are not anymore involved.
Correct. And last we come to Myanmar, of course. Myanmar is also linked to some internal problems which India is facing as far as the Northeast is concerned. Now, Myanmar, the Chinese have a great influence. That's no denying. They have a border which they share with Myanmar, a long border. Uh, Kunming is, in fact, very close to the Myanmar border itself. It's in the southern
Hmm.
China area. The Kyakfu port is also being developed by the Chinese. The CMEC, that is the China Myanmar economic corridor, is also underway as far as Myanmar is concerned. And a military junta is always easier to handle for China. Pakistan में भी
Correct.
virtually military junta है, यहाँ पर भी एक military junta है. पाकिस्तान में तो it is only one man Munir whom he has to handle. Here you have a sizable amount of military generals whom you have to handle. Chinese Do you think we'll now use Myanmar adversely against India, both for security reasons as well as primarily for the security reasons? Because economically too, there are some projects like Kaladan project, etc., which have to go and which are just languishing because of the development, Rohingya issue, etc. So, how do you see Myanmar-India relations progressing further in light of the Chinese, I would say, influence?
I believe that India. So India is basically keeping a very close watch on what's happening in Myanmar. In terms of, as you rightly mentioned, the Kaladan project is one of the major BIMSTEC related projects that we are seeking, and we are trying to connect as far as Thailand through land with that kind of project. So uh, that is, I think, one of the reasons that we haven't seen Indian statements coming out very strongly against what's happening to Myanmar in terms of not criticizing the Myanmar junta and all that. And we have been very soft in our approach. Maybe we are making some, there are news that we are making bilateral visits with the Myanmar top leadership, military leadership, as well as political leadership has been visiting to discuss Myanmar. But we are not, trying to egg them out so much that this might work against our favor. So I think India is very much aware that there is a strong Chinese influence in Myanmar, and even a little more pushing can push Myanmar into Chinese, hands. And therefore, India is trying to play its card very subtly in Myanmar at the moment.
Okay, so now that we have done a roundup of South Asia and the map, which I would like to show to the viewers, is this that this was a roundup of the neighbors of India, and I think very beautifully covered by Pooja. Pooja, now we are coming to the last question of our show, and thereafter we will move to the audience questions. And the last question is the one which we are all looking forward to. व्हाट शुड इंडिया डू इंडिया क्या करे चाइना के इन्फ्लुएंस को कम करने के लिए बिकॉज आफ्टर ऑल दिस होल डिस्कशन व्हिच वी हैड set up today was essentially to reduce the influence of China into our neighborhood. South
Hmm.
Asia belongs to India, not to China. China can say that it has some issues with South China Sea or East China Sea and that part of the world. South Asia में वो interfere कर रहा है as far as India is concerned. Indian perspective, I'm saying. So what should India do? This is the last question which we will take, which we will do attempt, and thereafter we'll go to the audience. Over to you, Pooja.
So I would say South Asia belong to South Asians, neither India nor China. And
Mm-hmm.
more and more, I think South Asia is getting very, very aware. And if you read the domestic politics coming out, that each of these countries want to play by their national interest. They do not want to get into the great power rivalry, even at the regional level. In this level, all the countries, including South Asia, India, and China, realize that there is economic is the largest factor where most of these countries can be swayed. Most of Asian economies are underdeveloped and developing. So whichever country can provide more finance inputs, in terms of development, in providing jobs, opportunities, business, those will be the countries which would be favored. But at the same time, as we already discussed recently, all these countries are also aware of too much reliance on China, so they're very, very careful while picking up sides. So they are not picking up sides, they are actually using picking up issues which are in their interest. They understand that India being a democracy will no longer be showing that big brother attitude with that India has. And I think India has also worked very hard to get over that big brother image that most of it used to get a pushback from South Asia. And we've gotten very much involved in a lot of developmental projects in these countries at very low cost or no cost, basically. And each of these countries are seeing, each every few months there is something, or maybe it's a small school, or maybe hydroelectric project, or some kind of those projects. Each of these countries are seeing India's participation in there instead of what China is doing their kind of bit in terms of building the bigger projects, which will take some time. India is trying to build something which is quite immediate, which has more impact at the societal level and will bring immediate economic benefits for those countries. At the same time, India is also trying to be the kind of global south voice, and also not saying that surprisingly. So if you've read through, I'm sure you've read through that statement, that exhibition we were talking about, that what China was clearly mentioning, that countries should get into the express train of China's development.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
should share the development of the share the developments of China's development. So this
I
kind of
read,
narrative, yes, that kind of showing that
I,
if China
I
is
had it.
developing, hmm, if
Yeah,
China
it's
is
I had it.
developing,
Hmm.
you will develop with me. You have to first let me develop, and I'll share my benefits with you. This is very opposite to how India is pursuing. They are saying, let's grow together, let's face our interests together, let's face our challenges together. The kind of approach that both India and China are taking are different, and it might not seem really huge, because economy is something which shows very very quick impact, but societal changes, changes perspective, takes a little more longer time. But I'm sure 4 5 years 10 years down the line, we'll see more of India's positive approach towards South Asia. Economically, we can, by then we'll be also at a higher level to have those kind of high quality bigger projects that these countries are seeking, and I think we can then compete with most of the Chinese project at that level.
Dr. Pooja, I think that was very well brought out. I have compiled a few issues which India has been doing essentially to win over the our neighbors, not as a elder brother or that big brother attitude, but as as fellow South Asians. That's the way I would
Correct.
look.
Correct.
People to people contact of India's approach, whether it is Afghanistan or whether it is any other country, Nepal or anything. First earthquake takes place, India sends the troops to Nepal. So that people to people connect, which India is now doing,
Hmm.
making all the difference, and India is fighting this pushback of the Chinese very very actively. This is the last slide which I would like to show to all our audience. Afghanistan offers India 20 unfinished project as big as the BRI of China in Afghanistan. Why? Because we were the first to give them the wheat, we were first to give them the vaccines, we were first to give them the medicines. And no one was coming through, even when Pakistan was stopping it. We went via the sea, via Iran, and gave it to them. That's the power of people to people contact, connect. Second one, Bangladesh State Minister says, while China is a friend, your point about transactional, while China is a friend in the economic domain, Bangladesh relationship with India is at different level because of the history. India has invited BD as a special guest at the next G20 summit. You see, these may not be economically very attractive, but
Hmm.
imagine the platform which Bangladesh is now getting as part of the G20. That's a huge thing. As far as Bhutan is concerned, despite the fact that the Chinese have made that bilateral discussion, what India did was called King of Bhutan and had a meeting at Jefu border, and have tried to create this special relationship with the kingdom alive again. Okay, so India is pushing back the Chinese effort. Present
Hmm.
President Ibrahim Mohammed Solih has offered, India has extended 100 million credit line. छोटा दे रहे हैं, कम दे रहे हैं. हाँ, जैसे आपने बोला कि वो बड़े प्रोजेक्ट्स दे रहे हैं, लेकिन हम दे रहे हैं, छोटे प्रोजेक्ट दे रहे हैं. हमने ब्रिज भी बना दिया जैसे कि उन्होंने बनाया था. जितनी हमारी हैसियत है अपनी चादर के हिसाब से दे रहे हैं. The biggest point which I am trying to tell here is India keeps a budget for our neighbors. इंडिया हमारे नेबर्स के लिए एक बजट रखता है. अफगानिस्तान के लिए भी इस बार बजट रखा है, आपको पता होना चाहिए, which is very very I think very generous gesture. Even under pro-Chinese communists, Nepal refused to abide by all the Chinese wishes. For example, Nepal would not terminate a 500 million development grant from the United States, which was actually worked out by India for Nepal. थ्रू द IMF. वाई? बिकॉज चाइना जो पैसा देता है ना, बड़ा हाई रेट पे देता है, 4.2% के करीब रेट पे देता है। इंडिया जो पैसा देता है, जैसे श्रीलंका को इंडिया ने दिया है 2.9 बिलियन, IMF के थ्रू दिया है, वो बहुत सस्ता है, 1%, 1.1% पे मिलता है। That's the kind of leverage which India is quietly doing, and it is this reason also that uh, the countries will remain in the fold of India, or at least tilted towards India. I won't say that they will not use China. They will use China. जैसे आपने बोला कि चाइना को तो वो यूज करेंगे ही करेंगे, because उनको जहां से पैसा मिलेगा, they will, and they don't want to get into the rivalry, cold war of India China. So that point of yours is absolutely. Overall, मेरा assessment है, India appears to be winning the strategic competition in South Asia, but there is no guarantee it will stay like this. We have to continue to work towards it. हमारा काम अभी प्रोग्रेस में है. I think with that we have come to the end. You would like to add anything onto the issues which I have covered, or anything which you want to add to what I have tried to gather here?
No, I believe we consistently actually provided the entire scenario because we need to keep working every election cycle. We cannot be sitting at after winning one positive government in India's favor in the neighborhood and that not work. It would be a work throughout of the coming decades. So I completely take that home that point, and that's the way we should be looking at it while engaging with our neighborhood.
Okay, Pooja, we'll now go to the questions. I think we have a fair amount of them. Let's see. This is by Shritik Kothari. Can countries who are indebted to China actually afford to be hostile, non-cooperative to China? Because huge Chinese loans and influence are like Damocles sword. Can we really say China lost them? Yeah. So basically, what he's trying to say is that, because of Hambantota, I mean, like one example is the Hambantota itself. The Sri Lankans are forced to allow them to come. Last time their frigate came to Hambantota, it was a spy ship, what people were saying, and ultimately it had to allow the ship to come to Hambantota. Later on, of course, they sent it back, but 3-4 दिन वहां रह गई थी. So this is what Shritik Kothari is trying to highlight. Can they actually afford to take panga with China? That is the basic question. Yeah. Would you
So
like to add
basically,
anything?
yeah, no, correct. This the answer is in the question. They cannot afford to, and politics is a very mature game. You cannot play mature that you did this to me, but this time I will not let you do this. This way, they cannot survive. And when you are a very small island economy or South Asian economy, developing economy in South Asia, you cannot afford to do that game. So what you can do is start playing smartly, and that's what most of these South Asian countries can do. They will not take panga. They might not even detach themselves, decouple, as if what is the famous word right now from the Chinese economy. But we'll also try to de-risk our economies. So most of these countries are not only relying only on Chinese projects and Chinese money. They are also seeking new projects and partners and stakeholders, so that they just don't feel the Chinese brunt as hard.
Okay. Next question, I think, is from Jaspreet Batra. Yes, we have faltered in integrating Nepal into Indian economic system, but all is not lost. Then he continues saying, there is huge resentment in Nepal. What is the actual reason behind it? Not fully understood and addressed by us. Yeah. Would you like to take on, or?
So see the problem with the, and it's a universal problem. It's coming over decades and centuries, that no two neighbors can have absolutely good relationship. There will be reasons with there would be factors between two countries which will keep their own position to keep themselves alive. They will keep creating factors to create resentment between the two countries, because this is the only way you survive. And especially when you are against a larger country or larger enemy, the only way you can survive is to provide reasons that why the other country is an enemy, and why you should not be trusting that country. Otherwise, if you have such pally relationship economically, politically, and every other way, might as well this country might would want to merge. I'm just making a hypothetical point. So it's there are certain factors within Nepal which will be benefited, or any other country. You talk about Pakistan, you talk about Myanmar, Bhutan, they will be benefited by keeping India keeping that image of India as an enemy. So whether you talk about economy, you talk about any other factor, I think that resentment will continue because that's the only way you can survive against your neighbors.
Yeah, Mr. Jakpreet, I think, like we have said earlier, also it's a transactional activity which is taking place. I think countries are playing smart, little smart nowadays,
Hmm.
and trying to extract the best out of both the big powers. Like India has also been doing something similar. We take the best from Russia, we take the best from Iran if required, and at times we listen to the US as well. So I think this is a real politic which is happening now. The world idealism has gone out of the geopolitics now. I can say that for sure, both at the global level and at the regional level. There is a question from Atre. If Bangladesh scholars are anti-India and pro-China, how are the relations between Bangladesh and Pakistan? Okay, now this is something which uh, would you like to state here, or yeah, would you like to take on?
So Bangladesh, Pakistan bilateral relations not my expertise.
Hmm.
Historically, Pakistan does not enjoy a very positive image about Pakistan, and I do not think they still enjoy a very positive image about Pakistan in Bangladesh. And also the thing is there's hardly any economic relation that I know of between the two countries, which is a major factor about any other country. So I do not know much about this relationship, but I can say that the relationship has been always very cold, and I think that that will continue to be
Oh,
so.
okay, Atre, I think Bangladesh, Pakistan have no meeting ground except
Hmm.
for the religion, which was created as a reason for them to become one country, and which broke off. Right? There may be pockets of cooperation as far as terrorism is concerned, but that's not the government. That's the government using terrorist other people for fake currency, etc., to use Bangladesh based on some radical elements which are there in Bangladesh, which are in connect with Pakistan. That will continue. That will continue because you see, AQIS is there, ISIS is there in Bangladesh, ISIS is there in Bangladesh. All these
Hmm.
people have their own networks and they will try to act against India. So that you cannot rule out. But to say that entire Pakistani polities, sorry, Bangladeshi polities going to be hand in gloves with Pakistan, I'm sorry, that is not going to happen. And I don't think it is going to happen. Historically, the two are absolutely poles apart. There will be these underhand gray zone connections which will take place between various elements which are there, security, uh, terrorist related activities, and fake currency, etc. Okay, there's a huge anti-China lobby, China loving lobby in the establishment. Also, our foreign relation management is not addressing these issues. Well, this is a matter of perception. That you're right. You're right. There is a huge anti-China, anti-India, China-loving lobby in Indian context. India is a democracy. Everyone has a right to his views. Whether India is addressing or not addressing it, that is questionable. Look, uh, we are not a totalitarian government. We are not a authoritarian government. हमारा democracy है. Democracy में तो सबको छूट है. इंफॉर्मेशन वॉरफेयर की एक लिमिट होती है. इंटरनल इंफॉर्मेशन वॉरफेयर थोड़ा पॉलिटिकल लेवल पे चले जाता है. Question becomes more political, so we will keep it at that. I think all the political parties of India are now having a very strong IT lobby or information war lobby. They are fighting with each other and trying to uh, I mean, you can see examples happening every day, whether it is news click हो या फिर कोई ऐसा event हो जो कि which says that party A is favoring China, etc. So there is another counterparty which comes up and against. I think that we should leave it at that. We should not go beyond that. We will not talk much on that issue. We'll go into the political domain. That's why I'm saying. This was just a point which our vice chairman gave, that China is not given to giving aid, but only a load, that to 4.2%, which is true. I had also mentioned it. And thank you, sir. Okay, Jack Sparrow, all these left liberal media in India have ruined our international relationship. Leave it at that. Views are personal, and uh, I may be in support of this, but then we also have counter information warfare also going on. We are lacking somewhere. What do you say, Pooja? In our information war, are is India lacking somewhere, or you feel that they're doing okay against anti-India tirade?
See, the
I'm
thing
looking
is,
at
the anti.
it from a young mind. I have an answer of mine, but I'm looking from a young mind as to what do you think, is India uh, really doing well as far as counter information warfare is concerned?
See, I will see it this way: the kind of innovative techniques that are being used against India are like quite at a higher level, and they penetrate really deep in various ways. Whether you talk about social media, you talk about TikTok, and targeting the just right target, endpoint basically. So that is very sophisticated. I am not very sure that we do have that kind of counter, innovative technologies that are countering that. What I am very sure is that India does keep a very positive, largely positive value, image in front of the entire world. Are we doing it deliberately through the similar kind of platforms is something not even clear to me. I am not very sure that we are doing those kind of using those very high level, high tech technologies by targeting the right, set of people, that sending them the right type of, message. It's a very complex game, the information technology warfare game. So I'm not sure if we are following. If we are following, it has to be. I know I've not read about it.
Anyway, but to some extent, I think Pooja, you're right that information warfare, we are a laggard as far as India is concerned. We are trying to catch up, but we still have a long way to go. We have to develop a full-fledged cyber force. Although the Prime Minister has announced about it, but for it to take shape on the ground, it will take a lot of time. And I'll request the audience, please like, subscribe to our channel. We are trying to bring the best of the minds out here on this channel. We just started, and I think we require your support to push us forward as far as these kind of discussions are concerned. They are really I mean, it takes a lot of effort to bring people to you, closer to your place where you are, and discuss these things threadbare. So please like and subscribe and hit the bell icon. We have a next question, which is from Jan Chaturvedi. Loan, that too at high rate of interest of 4.2%, which most of the South Asian countries are now aware of. India needs to use the strategy which India has followed with Bangladesh, Maldives, Sri Lanka. Yes, sir, absolutely true. I would like to add here that हम लोग हमेशा काउंटर की बात करते हैं इंफॉर्मेशन वॉरफेयर में, है पूजा? We always talk of countering. How do we counter information warfare? I'm saying we have to make a positive warfare also, information war also. जैसे कि हम बोलते हैं भाई वन चाइना पॉलिसी के अगेंस्ट बात करो, राइट? व्हाई कांट वी स्टार्ट अ वन इंडिया पॉलिसी? After all, India also has pockets which are currently occupied by people illegally. Whether you talk of गिलगित बाल्टिस्तान, whether you talk of POJK, इस तरह की कई ऐसी जगह हैं, whether you talk of the ceding of territory, अक्साई चेन, राइट? वखान कॉरिडोर में जो वो इलाका है, सो दीज थिंग्स आर इंडियाज डिजाइन. व्हाई शुड वी टॉक ऑफ वन वन इंडिया पॉलिसी? सो एक पॉजिटिव इंफॉर्मेशन वॉर भी वी हैव टू स्टार्ट फाइटिंग. आई थिंक यू आर राइट, एंड ऑडियंस इज ऑल्सो राइट दैट वी नीड टू focus on these issues as quickly as possible. Otherwise, we will be left behind. We will remain behind China. We will remain behind the world powers in terms of securing our security interest. Again, some comment earlier, we had an approach of being big brother, which was resented by all the countries of South Asia. We need to change our approach. Absolutely right, sir. We fully agree to you. And this is what also came out from the discussion. Then the next question, sir, Chinese are very effectively engaging with our neighbors. We should vice versa and checkmate China at and put pressure on them. True, we have discussed this also, and in our discussion, this came across that we have to do it our way. हमें इंडियन वे के थ्रू करना चाहिए, है ना? ना कि जैसे चाइनीज कर, उनको कॉपी करने की जरूरत नहीं है, हमारे पास पहले से इतनी कनेक्टिविटी है, हमको उस कनेक्टिविटी को थोड़ा सा और आगे ले जाना है ना? ओके, ओके, योर कमेंट्स ऑन दिस? आई थिंक यू आंसर्ड इट in the
Yeah,
passing.
so Kaladan project, shipping minister in India and also shipping secretary in India, they were very positive that we are making very positive strides, basically. And larger projects are basically finished about Kaladan multi-modal project. Where the hindrances are the smaller, on the ground basic issues, like manpower, employing manpower, training them, creating kind of small city and employment basically, so that those kind of projects can be manned by people. So those are the smaller, last minute hiccups that these projects are facing, apart from the Myanmar junta and last mile connectivity. I think most of the Kaladan project is over, and we should be launching it quite soon. That's what the shipping secretary and the shipping minister in India were saying just the last month.
Yeah, another, I think that's really well tackled. Ask ma'am, as you said, a lot of Bangladeshi youth and scholars are anti-India. We also see some opposition in Nepal, Maldives, and even Sri Lanka. We haven't really wronged any of them, so why the hate? Kuthari. Yeah.
So as I all, yeah, am I audible?
Yeah, yeah, you're audible.
So as I previously mentioned that there are certain pockets in every country that will seek their survival by fueling these kind of issues, making non-issues issues, so that they get political leverage and they get their things way, their own way. So I think from we should be seeing all these issues from that perspective, that whenever India is not able to deliver any of the project, those kind of issues would be picked up by the opposition, fueled by the opposition, to bring their own leverage into the entire issue. So you don't need to even wrong them completely. It's just that the kind of anti-India emotions will fuel their own presence so much that they will have to continue doing that if they need to survive.
Yeah, we are now reaching almost our finish time. So we will take just two more questions. I think there are too many of them, but I'll select. And sorry for the audience for not taking all your questions, but I'll take the few which are, I think, going to be more relevant. This is the question of John Doe, and whom I have not asked, whose questions I have not asked. The ones whose I have asked, I will not flash them again. If India continues to grow, then it is only a matter of time where we will be able to compete with anything China offers. The region will get used to two suns in the sky. Well said, John. Well said, John. And I think, but that time is a little way ahead. I mean, अभी India sun पे नहीं है. India, I think Jupiter के आसपास है. We have to, we have to grow a little bigger to become the sun. I think another 5, 10 years, and give 10 years to India. I think you will see India in its right place, economically and militarily as well. Okay. The next question is, let me see what else I can ask. There is a question. I'll take two more. Okay. This is a question from Colonel RP Singh. All type of ban with Pakistan, including trade countries. Will such restrictions force Pakistan to become friendly to survive, do trade for essential commodities? Yeah.
I think Pakistan is not learning from the longest ever game that we've been playing. That the trade restrictions, and that when they block trade with India and not do it, they're having their economy more. I don't think that is something that they are learning from. that. And eventually also I see that there is now India has also started moving from, taking out from, we have also shifted from Pakistan is a perennial issue, we have just taken it at that, and then left it as its measured, and now we have moved on multilaterally and bilaterally with every other countries. uh, it was basically premised that if we improve our economic relations with Pakistan, it will impact our political relations and diplomatic relations. Everything else will, people to people will improve. However, that's not happening, and Pakistan is losing its own game and inviting countries which are harming them more. Now, China is the recent example. So I don't think they want the economic development of the country. They just want the military no rule to continue and whatever suits them.
I mean, simple answer: bans have never been effective. So you
Effective, correct.
take Iran, you take Russia. Somebody will come to support the Pakistanis, and Pakistan's geostrategic location is such that it is very easily going to get someone or the other. I mean, the biggest supporter is China. Then you have the West Asian countries. They're hand in glove with Pakistan. Then you have Turkey. There are a number of countries which will come to the aid of Pakistan, and therefore I think we should not waste our time in banning anything as far as Pakistan is concerned. Pakistan, it is better left alone. It is failing, it is falling, it is getting ripped apart internally. Let's wait, watch, and see the show what is happening there. If you want to do anything to Pakistan, it's just a matter of. I mean, it's not. It's no more a challenge
And
as far as India is concerned. It's no
interestingly,
more a
I
challenge.
heard very interest. Sorry, uh, hello.
Yeah. You're
Yeah.
audible.
Yeah. So interestingly, I also heard a very interesting comment recently, like a few months back, that actually unstable Pakistan is more dangerous to India than relatively stable Pakistan, and therefore, even if we want them to crumble under their own weight, we would not want that, because it would be even worse for us geopolitically and strategically, basically. So that is also, we need to keep a close monitor on that. Even if
Yeah, I mean,
Pakistan is failing,
the the better way to project that would be an inward-looking Pakistan is better for us than an outward-looking Pakistan. That's the that is the bottom line as far as Pakistan is concerned. जब तक वो अंदर देख रहा है अपने ही हालात को देख रहा है, तब तक वो हमारे लिए अच्छा है, चाहे वो वेस्ट पे हो, चाहे ईस्ट में हो या नॉर्थ में हो। हर जगह उसको मुसीबतें छाई हुई हैं उसके ऊपर, तो छाए रहने दीजिए, लेकिन उसको इसी तरह से रंबल ऑन करने दीजिए। कुछ दिनों में वो अपने आप बैठ जाएगा, 5 4-5 टुकड़े हो जाएँगे, वो अलग-अलग जगह चले जाएँगे। ठीक है? वो उसको टाइम लगेगा, बट लेट्स नॉट वेस्ट आवर एफर्ट, टाइम एंड money on that. That's more important. Last question, and then we are calling it off. Propaganda, perception, and persuasion base for narrative. I have questioned, how is our defense growing on information war, or call it in diplomatic way, information biasness in international news? Okay, Pooja, I think we can answer this question to Piyush by saying that we've already discussed information war as far as India's counter information war is concerned. There is currently a little bit of, I would say, the correct emphasis or the adequate emphasis is not there on this particular issue. But I find our foreign minister is very, very active as far as information war is concerned. And I think he's leading the way. Moment his statement comes, the entire world starts talking about it. So if your leader of foreign affairs diplomacy is telling you something, and I think if everyone starts echoing that, it will automatically gather that virulence which is required of a particular information to go viral in the world. I think we have the leader. We need little more focus, and we need little more support at the ground level and at the I would say politically also. I think foreign and national security should not be a matter of politics. जब ये जब ये आ जाएगा देश में, हमारा इंफॉर्मेशन वॉरफेयर वैसे ही अच्छा हो जाएगा. Any comments by you before we conclude?
Yeah, you are correct. And I want to also add that what you were saying that instead always we should countering to develop our positive narratives.
Yeah, you're right. The
And it is in that context I'll talk about our current context we are talking about of global south, India being a voice of global south, Vasudev Kutumbakam. These are the terms now more and more, leaders are started using. You talk to them and everyone is using one world, one earth, one family, one future, that kind of statement. So I think that's a very much of a positive narrative that we are building.
Okay, I think thanks a lot, Pooja. We have covered a lot of ground today in 1 hour, little bit over 1 hour, 10 minutes. I think, as promised, I've gone about 10 minutes over, but it was good discussion. Thank you very much. Till we meet again next time, we will close our show by requesting the audience once again. Please like, subscribe to our channel,